Going over a few things. These were the things that we're going to go over as far as spell check, object selection tool, applying layer adjustments to only one layer, puppet warp and free transform that are both in Photoshop and in Illustrator. I'll show you where both of those are at too. And then the bitmap and Duotone and creating patterns in Illustrator too, which is actually pretty awesome. Spell check is kind of the important thing that everyone needs to understand too as well. If you have a box selected in Illustrator, if you do spell check, it's only going to spell check the box that you have selected. So if you're trying to do your portfolios, it's really good to not have anything selected and have it so it will search the entire document. Okay, because if you click on one thing and go under Edit and Spelling and check spelling, it's only going to check that one box and it won't check the rest of it, and you'll assume that everything else is okay. So really make sure when you guys are done that you don't have anything selected. Go under Edit, Spelling, and check spelling for that too. Okay. Photoshop also has a spell check. If you're in that point too, it does have a check spelling feature that's here too as well. All right, object selection tool, applying layer adjustments only one layer, puppet warp, free transform. Those things are pretty cool. I'm going to show you something in Illustrator first of how this might work as far as puppet warp and free transform. I'll show you in Photoshop when we get to that point. So the object selection tool. Well, if I have a picture that's in Photoshop, a lot of students will try different selection tools to try to select around it, and it doesn't quite work, and they're trying to add to it with other things, and it might select other pieces and parts. It becomes a little hard to do. There is some easy new tools that are in here that are cool for you guys to use. Under the selection tools, there's the object selection tool here. What's neat about this is it will pretty much select the object that you draw around it first. It might have a few things that might need to be fixed, but for the most part, it does a pretty good job with selecting something just by dragging it over there. And by using that, I can actually create a layer mask from there, and I can have that object pretty much done, which is pretty easy. Okay. Remember that I could also go in here under Select and Mask and edit and change things if I wanted to. If I'm trying to edit or fix because, hey, I want to get rid of those things right here, well, maybe I want to get rid of it. So I can go in here and say, oh, okay, I want to get rid of this stuff. It kind of will fix it up for me and things like that too. I can see how that looks by changing the transparency of what I want. So I know I need to get rid of this part, right? Or I want to keep that shadow maybe, I don't know. I can refine the edges here too. If I had hair that I want to go over, I can kind of go over it. It will kind of refine it and make the hair a little bit. So it gets rid of other things. It's a good tool for you guys to use. Remember when you're done with this that you're changing your output settings to wherever you want to put those. I usually do a layer mask, but you could also do a selection that's here too. Hit OK. Once I have that, there's my layer mask that's on my original object that's here too. Now, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to duplicate this layer that's here. I'm going to get rid of the layer mask that's on the bottom one. I'm not going to apply it. Don't apply. Okay. And then I actually have this guy on top of this here too as well. All right, so just remember too, guys, as I'm talking, that you might be getting heard on the microphone that's up here too, even though you might be in the back of the room. As I'm going through this too, I'm going to add a adjustment layer on this image. You guys might be changing colors for your money, right? You might be changing it so it's, red or blue or purple to kind of tie into what you guys want. I can do adjustment layers that are here. Okay, I can change brightness, contrast, levels, curves, exposure. I'm going to do hue and saturation because it's cool, and I can get some really unique different colors with this as I go through this. Okay, whoa, that's pretty cool, right? But the problem is I actually want to keep the background normal, and I only want to change the guy. Well, if I want to do this, I can actually apply this adjustment layer to this layer. The easiest way to do this is to hold down Option or Alt as I go and click on this, and then it will be just applied to that layer only. Pretty cool, right? So I could do that just by holding down Option or Alt, and you get that little arrow. It'll add that to that layer. I can take it away too, as well. Pretty neat way to kind of do that. All right, we went through the object selection tool. I showed you how to apply a layer adjustment, only one layer. I'm going to now show you guys Puppet Warp and then the free transform that's on here too as well. I have a good picture here that is a good one to use in Photoshop to kind of show you where this works. So a gentle reminder about your work blog. Okay. There's my hand that I want. Apply my layer mask to this. There is under Edit, there's a Puppet Warp. But there's also a free transform tool that's here too, and regular transform. Remember, to transform something is Command T, right? And I can transform and change my size on things too as well. There is also under this too, under Edit, there's a free transform tool. Okay, it's pretty much the same thing. If I hold down Command, I can start to edit and change how that might look too as well. Puppet Warp. It's almost like the name of a good death metal band, right? Puppet Warp, right? You're going to edit and Puppet Warp. It's like having something that's being tacked on a cork board. You're using these things to hold things in place. So when I click on them, notice how it's a little thumbtack? It's telling me, well, that's what I'm going to hold in place. So if I hold that in place, I can actually take this and then look, it actually keeps it in that place. But I can keep that thumbtack there. I can actually add thumbtacks on each one of the fingers. So if I wanted to, I could actually move each one of the fingers around. If I want to thumbtack this so these don't move, well, maybe I'm just moving the finger, right? Now it starts to look really weird, right? So Puppet Warp is pretty cool that I can start to edit and move things around too as well. Kind of funny, right? Okay. It works the same way in Illustrator too. In Illustrator, if I have objects that are here, if I take these, there is under this, there is a transform tool. Where's my transform? There it is. You'll have a free transform tool that's here too. It opens up these defaults that's here. The free transform is normal. It just changes the size of it, okay? There's a perspective tool. I'll change my perspective on what I want. There's also the free transform tool that will basically free distort it, and I can move that around any other way. There's also under this the Puppet Warp. It works the same way. Remember those thumbtacks? Where those thumbtacks are, it tacks those things down. If I want to get rid of it, I don't want a thumbtack anymore, just hit delete. Works the same way in Photoshop too. I can manipulate and move things around that way too. Kind of cool, right? Okay. All right. In Illustrator, a lot of you guys understand things about patterns and stuff like that too. Whatever I create in here, okay, I can take this and go under Window and Pattern Options. If I want to create a new pattern under my Pattern Options, I can make a pattern here. Hey, that pattern, whatever I want, whatever I create, it will make that pattern for me. Whenever I'm done, I can click Done. Okay? It's now created this really cool pattern that's in here that I can use for something else. Pretty neat, right? Depending on how I want to use this, I can take that pattern, okay, and I can actually take this and drag that into my other image that's here. If I take this and drag this into here, well, there it is. Okay, it's right there. You can put it underneath him. So there it is, right there. It's pretty cool, right? Notice, though, it says Vector Smart Object, and it has this little icon down here, too, meaning it's a Vector Smart Object. What's cool about that is I took something from Illustrator and I put it into Photoshop. Well, if I want to edit it, I could double-click on it, And I'll open it up back up for me too, the way I had originally saved it. And if I want to go in here and edit this, or even edit these colors, and say, you know what, I want this to be blue. And I want the stroke to be thicker on this too. There we go, there's my new pattern that's on here. So now that I changed that, click done, there it is. I save it, close it down, go back to Photoshop. What happened? It automatically changed it. It's still editable in Illustrator from there too as well. Kind of neat, right? Creating patterns in Illustrator too. You guys probably remember these things as well. If I have a shape that's here, I can create another different shape over here. If you guys remember using the blend tool, this tool, the blend tool that's here, I can choose one part here, another part here. Depending on what I want, by double clicking on it, I can say, hey, I want specified steps. Let's make this 25 steps. Hey, that's cool. I can actually add, if I wanted to, on here, I can actually add a point onto this. I can move it around. I can create some interesting patterns with this too. I can do some neat things that could be used for my money as well. Other things I could do too, thinking about symbols and stuff like that. Whatever I have, whatever shape that I have here too. Remember, if I hold down Option, I could duplicate that shape. Command D duplicates the last thing that I did. I can do the same thing too, but just by doing it this way and rotating it. If I rotate from a certain point, hold down Option, I can duplicate it again. I can do that with other shapes and other forms too. Well, what if I'm just creating a line? Well, what if that line is rotating from a certain point? Get some neat things going on here too. It's kind of fun. Remember, I can always take these things and put them into here, depending on what I want to do with my money. Kind of cool, right, guys? So far, so good. I can also think about other things that work really nice in here too, are gradients. Okay. But how things are being manipulated and changed underneath them, remember our blending modes. I can change my blending modes here too. Depending on what I want to do, I can get some really neat things going on here by just changing the blending modes over the top of this existing gradient that's there. You cannot edit or change these vector smart objects unless you rasterize them. If you rasterize them though, they make it so you can't edit it, and that's fine. You can also select these objects too and do something with them if you wanted to. If I hold down Command, notice how my cursor changed. My cursor changed to a selection tool, gave me a marquee. I now can select that vector smart object. If I create a new layer on top of that, hey, I can create a new gradient. Let's do this one. I can do this gradient over the top of this. So now my gradient that I have with those lines are attached on there. Kind of cool, right? All right. You might have a famous person you want to make it look like it's being engraved, right? I'm going to take this guy here and show you what I'm going to do with this. Most of you guys know this guy here, right? Do my object selection tool. Let's see if this works. Hey, it did. Look at that. Super awesome. Get rid of the background there. I'm going to make it look like an engraving. Okay? How do I make it look like an engraving in Photoshop? Well, a neat way to make it look like an engraving in Photoshop is I will have to take this and flatten it. Now notice I'm not doing this on the document, my original document that's here. Because if I do this on this document, it'll flatten everything and merge it all together and change everything, and I don't want that. So I'm going to do this on a different image, change all this, and then bring it onto my final piece that's there. Image mode, change this to grayscale. I have to change it to just one color. I'm going to get rid of all the colors. Image mode, change it. Oops, I have to be actually on my image itself, not my layer mask. I won't like it. Image mode, bitmap. And it's going to flatten my layers. Okay. Once I do this, and I want to do halftone screen with this. With the halftone screen at 300 pixels per inch, I'm going to change this to a line. Now you could do round, you could do diamond, you could try eclipse, you could do square across, anything that you want. You could experiment with it. I would. I'm doing it at line. I'm keeping the frequency at 20. You can experiment with these two. That's how many lines it is per inch as well. So 20 that's there, and hit OK. Well, look at that. That kind of looks like an engraving, huh? The only problem is it's only what color? Black. I might want to change it. Image mode, change it back to grayscale. Image mode, and then the cool thing is called Duotone. If I click on Duotone, hey, look at that. I can choose a monotone color, pink, if I want to do it that way, right? Hit OK. That's pretty awesome. I can now take this and put this image into here. Hey, that's pretty cool, right? Now, it's got a white background. You might have to think about what you might want to do if you want that white background on there or not. But you guys might remember from yesterday, there was an easy way to get rid of that white background. You guys remember the easy way to get rid of the white background?
Multiply.
Yeah, multiply. So if I do this and change my blending mode from normal to multiply, there it is. Yeah, it's kind of cool, right? One other thing that might be neat for you guys to do as well with all of this is if I do this back to, from grayscale, image mode, go to duotone. If you do duotone, you can actually do two colors. And you can actually get some really interesting things, even if you manipulate the curves and get those kind of dual colors with your people. And then I can use that too as well. What's cool with that is I can actually take this when I'm done I can actually do this over the top of it, and I can get this to look like it's engraved with some other colors in there too as well. Just by multiplying those two objects, one being the bitmapped image and the one being the duotone under the bottom of it. You can get some pretty cool things with that if you guys want to. All right, you guys are now a little bit more dangerous in Photoshop. You know a few cool things to do with that too. So have fun with this, guys. Do some awesome stuff with Photoshop. Have fun with your money. Make it look cool.